For nearly 4 decades, every Tuesday at exactly 2 p.m., my husband walked into the same bank. Rain, snow, sickness, holidays, it didn't matter. He never missed it. When I asked why, he'd kiss my forehead and whisper the same line: just keeping our future secure. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? Bob was an accountant. Numbers were his language, precision his faith. Our bills were always paid on time, our taxes filed early, our retirement accounts supposedly solid. He was the kind of man people trusted without question. The day he died, I was at the grocery store, choosing avocados. My son David called with a voice I'd never heard before. Careful, as if the words themselves might shatter me. Mom, you need to come to the hospital. Dad collapsed at work. By the time I arrived, Bob was gone. A massive heart attack. The doctor said it was quick, painless the way Bob would have wanted it. At the funeral, I didn't cry. Everyone assumed I was in shock, that grief hadn't hit me yet. But the truth was stranger. I felt relieved. Not because I hated him, I didn't, but because somewhere deep inside, beneath the exhaustion and casseroles, people kept dropping off. I felt like I could finally breathe. I didn't know why. 3 days later, a letter arrived. Plain envelope, no return address. Inside, a notice from First National Bank. Per the terms of the safe deposit box lease, you are listed as secondary holder. Please arrange access. A safe deposit box? Bob had never mentioned it. Not once in 38 years. My stomach tightened. I called the bank. Yes, the box was real. Yes, I could open it. Thursday at 10 a.m. The next 2 days, I drifted through the house like a ghost. Every drawer Bob had organized, every file labeled in his neat handwriting, it all looked normal. Too normal, like a stage set designed to mimic a life. On Wednesday night, David came over. His tie was loosened, his eyes rimmed red. He'd taken his father's death hard. Mom, he said, sitting in Bob's chair at the kitchen table, we need to talk about Dad's finances. I've been going through his office files. Some things don't add up. He opened a folder. 3 checking accounts. 1 closed last year. 1 drained 6 months ago. The third had a balance of $43. I stared at the numbers. That's not possible. Our retirement account alone should have over $400,000. David's face told me everything before his words did. Mom, I can't find it. Any of it. That night, I lay awake in the bed Bob and I had shared for decades, staring at the ceiling. My mind raced through memories, the Tuesday bank trips, his insistence on handling all the finances, the way he'd pat my hand and say, "Don't worry about the boring money stuff, Maggie, I've got it covered." He had it covered. All right, covered in secrets. Thursday morning came cold and gray. I dressed in a navy blazer and slacks armor, not morning clothes. David offered to come, but I said no. Whatever was in that box, I needed to face it alone. The bank manager, Patricia, led me to the vault. 2 keys turned, and box 847 slid free. I carried it to a small room, set it on the table, and stared. Plain metal, locked secrets, the summary of a marriage I thought I understood. I opened it. Inside were folders. The first labeled investments, actual, page after page of losses. Bad stocks, risky ventures, hundreds of thousands gone. The second folder, home equity loans, 3 of them. Total debt, $270,000. The third folder, credit cards. My name, my social security number, my forged signature, 15 cards, all maxed out. Total balance, $96,000. My husband had stolen my identity. At the bottom of the box was an envelope, thick, cream, my name, written in Bob's handwriting. I opened it. Maggie, if you're reading this, I'm already gone. What Bob confessed in that letter would not only shatter the illusion of our marriage, it would drag me into a war for survival, against debts, lies, and betrayal I never saw coming. The envelope trembled in my hands. Bob's handwriting stared back at me, steady and familiar. The same loops and curves that had signed birthday cards, mortgage papers, love notes tucked into lunch bags. But this time, the words inside weren't love. They were confession. Maggie, if you're reading this, I'm already gone. I tried to fix it. I failed. The loans, the credit cards in your name, the investments. I thought I could make it right before you ever had to know. I was wrong. By now, we're probably bankrupt. The house may go into foreclosure. Your credit is destroyed. I'm sorry. I love you. That part was always real. I read it twice, then a third time, until the words blurred. My husband, the man who held my hand through childbirth, who buried my mother beside me, who danced with our daughter at her wedding, stolen my identity and buried our future under mountains of debt. When I left the bank, Patricia, the manager, asked softly, "Are you all right, Mrs. Thompson?" "No," I said, "but I will be. I need copies of everything in that box. And the name of a lawyer who handles financial fraud." At home, David was waiting. His face tightened when he saw the stack of documents. "Mom, this is bad, really bad." "I know," I said, "the house, the retirement, my credit seats, all gone." "How are you so calm?" "Because anger won't save us. What I need is a plan." The lawyer's name was Jennifer Rodriguez. Patricia had whispered it like a lifeline. On Monday, I sat in Jennifer's office, sunlight spilling across her desk as I laid out the evidence, the forged signatures, the loans, the letter. She listened, her expression grave. "Mrs. Thompson," she said finally, "this isn't just mismanagement. It's spousal financial abuse, fraud, identity theft, a crime." The word hung in the air. My marriage reframed in a single syllable. Jennifer explained the uphill battle, proving I wasn't complicit, fighting creditors, saving the house. 6 months, maybe a year. Money I didn't have, but I nodded anyway. "Tell me what we need to do." That night, Emily called. My daughter's voice was small, fragile. "Mom, are you sure? Dad wouldn't do that. He loved us." "He did," I said, "and he also destroyed our finances." "Both things can be true." She hung up. David tried to reassure me. "She come around." But I wasn't sure. Some people need the lie more than they can bear the truth. The weeks blurred into paperwork, phone calls, meetings. Jennifer filed reports. Handwriting experts confirmed the forgeries. And slowly, painfully, pieces of the debt began to crumble. 2 credit card companies erased the balances. A small victory. Proof that truth could win, even if slowly. But the house, the home where I'd raised children, planted roses, painted kitchens, was still under siege. The bank argued I'd benefited from the loans simply by living there. Jennifer countered with evidence. The funds had gone into Bob's accounts alone, spent on failed investments I never knew existed. "We'll have to go to court," she said. "A judge will decide if you're liable for debt created through fraud." I thought of Bob's letter, his neat handwriting, his final words, "I love you." That part was always real. Love, fraud, betrayal, all tangled together. The courtroom would become the battlefield where I fought not just for my home, but for my name, my dignity, and the truth of a marriage built on secrets. The courthouse smelled faintly of old wood and rain. November skies pressed gray against the windows as I walked in, David at my side. Emily wasn't there. She'd sent a text the night before. "I can't watch you do this to Dad's name." "I'm sorry," I replied simply. "I understand. I love you." No answer came back. The courtroom was smaller than I'd imagined from television dramas. Judge Harrison, a man in his 60s with tired eyes, presided. The bank's lawyer stood polished and sharp, his suit immaculate, his tone dripping with confidence. Jennifer sat beside me, calm and steady, her presence like a lighthouse in a storm. The bank argued that, as Bob's spouse, I had benefited from the loans. I'd lived in the house, hadn't I? I'd shared in the marriage, hadn't I? Therefore, I was responsible. Jennifer rose, her voice clear and unwavering. She laid out the evidence. Forged signatures, expert testimony, the separate accounts, the letter Bob had written in his own hand admitting fraud. Then she called me to the stand. "Mrs. Thompson, when did you first learn about these loans?" "When I opened the safe deposit box after my husband's death, in 38 years of marriage." "Did your husband ever discuss taking out equity loans?" "Never." "Did you receive any of the money from those loans?" "No. It went into accounts I didn't know existed." "Did you sign the loan applications?" "No, I did not." The bank's lawyer rose for cross-examination. He was young, aggressive, the kind of man who'd never truly lost anything. "Mrs. Thompson, isn't it true you trusted your husband with the finances?" "Yes." "So you chose not to be involved in financial decisions." I met his gaze. "I trusted him." "That's not the same as choosing to be defrauded." "But you benefited from the marriage. You lived in the house. Those loans were taken against." "I lived in my home, the one my husband and I bought together 40 years ago, the one he put at risk without my knowledge or consent." "You expect us to believe that in 38 years you never suspected anything?" That was the question, wasn't it? The one I'd asked myself for months. I took a breath. My husband was an accountant. He was good with numbers, organized, trustworthy, or so, I thought. He hid his mistakes behind competence, behind my trust, behind decades of me believing that love meant not questioning, not doubting, not looking too closely at the things he told me not to worry about. Was I naive? Probably, but naivete isn't consent to fraud. The courtroom fell silent. After a recess, we returned. Judge Harrison looked at both lawyers, then at me. His voice was steady, deliberate. I've reviewed all the evidence, the forged signatures, the expert testimony, the defendant's own written admission. While I understand the bank's position regarding spousal benefit, I cannot ignore the clear evidence of fraud committed without Mrs. Thompson's knowledge or consent. I'm ruling in favor of the defendant. The loans are void. The liens on the property are released. David squeezed my hand. Jennifer smiled. Relief flooded me, sharp and overwhelming. 6 months of fear and doubt cracked open. We had won, but walking out of that courthouse, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired, older, hollow, because what had I really won? My house, yes. My name cleared, yes. But I had also lost a marriage I thought I understood, a partner I thought I knew, and maybe a daughter who couldn't forgive me for telling the truth. That night, the phone rang. Emily. Her voice was thick, trembling. Mom, I need to tell you something. After the hearing, I went to the bank. I wanted to prove you wrong, but you weren't wrong. It was all there, and there was more. He had a credit card in my name too. $23,000. My credit is ruined, and I never even knew. Bob's secrets were still spilling out, even from the grave. Emily's discovery would force us to confront not just debt, but the deeper truth. How love and betrayal can live inside the same person, and how a family learns to rebuild from ashes. Emily's voice cracked through the phone like glass splintering. Mom, he had a card in my name too. $23,000. My credit is ruined. I never even knew. I closed my eyes. Bob's betrayal wasn't finished. Even from the grave, his secrets kept spilling out, staining everything they touched. Emily, I whispered, I'm so sorry. Her sobs were jagged. I couldn't believe you. I thought you were destroying his memory. But I went to the bank myself. It's all there. Everything you said, and more. When she came over that night, her face was pale, her hands trembling. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Bob had once balanced checkbooks and reassured me with his calm accountant's smile. Now it was covered in copies of forged signatures, debt statements, and the letter that had detonated our lives. David joined us, his voice steady but his eyes rimmed red. We'll get through this, he said, not because it's easy, but because we're finally telling the truth. For the first time since Bob's death, all three of us sat together, united not by grief, but by betrayal. We weren't just a family mourning, a husband and father. We were survivors of his deception, rebuilding from ashes. The weeks that followed were a blur of paperwork and strategy. Jennifer guided Emily through the same fraud claims I had filed. David organized spreadsheets, tracked deadlines, and became the anchor I leaned on. Slowly, painfully, the credit bureaus began to clear our names, but survival wasn't enough. I needed purpose. At 64, with retirement gone and bills looming, I looked for work. My resume was 10 years as a librarian, part-time jobs, then retirement. Who would hire me now? A small bookstore downtown called me in. Ruth, the silver-haired owner with sharp eyes behind red glasses, studied me across her desk. You worked as a librarian, married nearly 40 years. Now you're looking for work. May I ask why? I could have lied, said boredom, or wanting to stay active, but I was tired of lies. My husband died. I found out he stole my identity and destroyed our finances. I need a job to keep my house. Ruth set down my resume, her gaze steady. Then she smiled. When can you start? The bookstore became my sanctuary. I shelved novels, recommended mysteries, and found solace in the quiet rhythm of books. Ruth became a friend, her own scars etched deep. One afternoon, she told me about her divorce decades earlier. He wasn't dishonest about money, she said, sliding books onto a shelf. He was dishonest about everything else. Other women, other lives. Everyone told me to try harder. But you know what I learned? The people who tell you to try harder are usually the ones who've never had to try at all. Her words sank into me like stones. Then one day, a woman wandered into the store, her eyes lost. Do you have anything about financial abuse in marriage? She asked. I handed her books, but then, on impulse, I said, I've lived it. If you want to talk. We sat for an hour, her story spilling out different details, same pattern, control disguised as care, isolation disguised as protection, manipulation disguised as love. When she left, she hugged me. Thank you for believing me. That night, Ruth looked at me. You're good at that. Listening, believing, not judging. I thought of Emily's initial disbelief, of friends who had pulled away when I spoke the truth. I know what it's like not to be believed, I said simply. Word spread. More women came. Stories poured out. Financial abuse, emotional abuse, the quiet kind that doesn't leave bruises, but leaves you hollow. Ruth and I started a support group in the back room of the bookstore. Just chairs, coffee, and truth. At the first meeting, I told my story. All of it. The Tuesday bank trips, the safe deposit box, the forged signatures, the court battle, the daughter who couldn't accept the truth until she had no choice. How did you stay strong? Someone asked. I didn't. I said. I cried. I was terrified. But I kept moving forward anyway, because the alternative was giving up, and I'd already spent too many years letting someone else make my choices. The group grew. 10 women, 15, 20. We shared lawyers' numbers, credit repair tips, survival strategies, and slowly, I realized something. Bob hadn't destroyed me. He had transformed me. What began as survival was becoming something larger, a movement, and I was no longer just a victim of betrayal. I was becoming the voice that told other women, "You are not alone." The support group grew faster than I ever imagined. 10 women became 15. Then 20, each carrying stories that echoed mine in different keys. Some spoke of husbands who drained, accounts under the guise of investments. Others revealed partners who signed their names on loans they never saw. The details varied, but the pattern was the same. Control disguised as care, silence disguised as love. At our 1-year anniversary meeting, 23 women sat in a circle in the back of the bookstore. I looked around at their faces, some hardened by years of betrayal, others still raw with fresh wounds. When my husband died, I told them, I thought my life was over. In a way, it was. The marriage I believed in, the future I planned, all of it died with him. But something else was born. Not immediately, not easily, but gradually. What he did to me was wrong, I said. Legally, morally, ethically wrong. But what I did next, that was my choice. I could have stayed angry, stayed stuck in betrayal. Instead, I chose to rebuild, to help others, to transform pain into purpose. After the meeting, a young woman approached me. She couldn't have been more than 35, her eyes swollen from crying. "My husband handles all our money," she whispered. "He says I'm not good with numbers, but something feels wrong. I don't know what, just wrong." I took her hands. Trust that feeling. Ask questions. Look at the accounts. Don't let anyone, not even someone you love, keep you in the dark about your own financial life. Her tears spilled. "What if I'm wrong? What if I'm just paranoid?" "Then you look foolish for 5 minutes," I said gently, "and then you move on, secure in the knowledge you are protecting yourself. But if you're right, and you don't look, you could lose everything." She returned the next month with documents in hand. Her husband had siphoned money from their joint account into crypto investments he swore would make them rich. He'd lost $80,000. She filed for divorce the day before. "I'm terrified," she told me, "but I'm also free." I knew exactly what she meant. Emily's credit was eventually cleared, just like mine. David invested the $50,000 he'd once saved for college back into a secure fund, locked tight where no one could touch it. And Mai kept working at the bookstore, kept running the group, kept moving forward. On what would have been my 39th wedding anniversary, I walked into a bank Bob had never set foot in. I opened an account in my name only, Margaret Sullivan, my maiden name. The teller smiled. "Anything else I can help you with today, Mrs. Sullivan?" "No," I said, standing taller than I had in years. "That's enough." I left the bank with my head high. For the first time in a year, I felt like I knew exactly who I was, not erasing the past, but reclaiming the parts of myself I had set aside. And if you're reading this, if any of this sounds familiar, the locked doors, the secrets, the feeling that something is wrong but you can't name it, trust yourself. Ask questions. Look at the documents. Don't let anyone tell you that love means blind trust. Love means partnership, transparency, respect. If you open your own safe deposit box and your world falls apart, remember this. You are stronger than you know. The person who tried to erase you didn't succeed. You're still here, and that means you can rebuild. I did, and so can you. This isn't just a story of betrayal, it's a story of rebirth. Because sometimes, the end of the life you thought you had is the beginning of the one you were meant to live.